Afternoon, guys. Wanted to throw a new video out here for you to review some of the things we've been discussing about quadratics here lately, and help you to see kind of here lately we've been discussing also factoring, and I wanted to bring to light why am I making you do factoring? What's the point, and how is it beneficial to us? So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to you're going to see me working out some problems, but you're not going to actually see me. You're going to see my handwriting. But I'm going to be explaining kind of what's going on here. So let me flip the thing around. Okay, so here's a problem that we've been working on. So just to recap some of the old stuff we've been doing, I have had you, find the axis of symmetry. I have had you find the vertex. I've had you convert to vertex form. And I've had you factor. So let's take one of these point by point. So axis of symmetry, if you'll remember, that we use that formula, x equals negative b over 2a. And if you'll recall, the b and the a are from the actual equation itself. So let's start with that. So point number 1. I'm going to say, to find the axis of symmetry, I'm going to say x equals negative, and then I'm going to put a negative 7. Notice how I'm making sure I keep the sign with it. I'm putting it in there, so I'm going to say 2 times 1, because up here there is an understood 1 in front, right? So I have a positive 7 over 2. So x equals 7 over 2. That is my axis of symmetry. Or you can say 3.5, right? If you took 7 halves and just converted it. So that's to find the axis of symmetry. So now for point number 2 here, to find the vertex. Remember, I take the equation, x squared minus 7x minus 18, but instead of putting the x's, I'm going to put 7 halves in there. So I'm going to have 7 halves squared minus 7 times 7 halves minus 18. So that's going to be a 49 fourths minus 49 halves minus 18. Okay, so craziness, right? Not a big deal. So let's see if I just do a little. Now some of this right here, you know, your calculator can do it for you, but you know me, I don't like calculators that much. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to multiply it by 2 over 2. It's going to be 18. It's going to be 98 fourths minus 18. So let's see. 98 minus 49. It's 18, so it's going to be 9, so it's going to be 4. So it's going to be a negative 49 fourths minus 18. Okay. So multiply that, 4 over 4. It's 34, 72 fourths minus 49 fourths. Okay, so that's going to give me 9, 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 21. Negative 121 fourths. So let's see, does that 121? That's 12, 0. Okay, so I'll just leave it like that. So my vertex is 7 over 2 and negative 121 fourths. Do not let what I did, all this right here, don't let that distract you from what we're really doing here, guys. Again, your calculator does all of that for you. This right here, the fact these are weird looking, this should not scare you. Okay, this is okay. These are just numbers. So that's my vertex. So don't be dismayed by that, okay? So there's my vertex. My third one right here was convert to vertex form. So vertex form, if you'll remember, is y equals A times the quantity x minus h squared plus k. So my a value, remember, is the a value up here, the original equation. So it's just going to be 1. I'm not going to write that there because you know that by now. So we got 7/2 squared minus 121 fourths. Okay. There, right there is your vertex form. Okay, so that's just some of the stuff we've done up to this point. And now let's look at the factoring. So I want to talk a minute about factoring trinomials and why. Why do we even care? What is the point? So let's look at it. I'm going to rewrite the problem. Now, I've said this on my previous video, but you know, I'm going to say this again because I want you to get the idea. Remember when we were in basic arithmetic classes, we're learning how to factor a number. 30 is 15 and 2. 15 goes to 3 and 5. Remember, all three of those numbers right there are the prime factors. I can't break them down any further. Okay? So that's the idea. Right here, what I'm doing is I'm taking this and I'm breaking it down into its prime factors. In other words, this right here represents the 30. And the factors that I'm going to have here at the end is going to be the prime factors of this. So when I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, negative 18 goes up here, negative 7. I'm looking for two numbers that'll multiply to give me negative 18, but they want to add and give me negative 7. So we'll figure out, all right, negative 18. Let's see, negative 18, 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. So we look at these and we go, okay, so they all multiply and give me negative 18. Now, listen, this right here tells me something. The very fact that I multiply these and get a negative number tells me that one of them's got to be positive and the other's got to be negative. And, you know, the only question is which one's which. This can help you figure this out. They have to add to give me a negative 7, right? So if I make all of my bigger numbers negative, that's going to give me a negative difference. For instance, that's going to be a negative 17, negative 7, negative 3, right? So in this case right here, you've got x minus 9, x plus 2, right? That's your two factors. So in other words, that's the two prime factors of this trinomial. Okay, here's where I want to start connecting some things. You know, in our standard, we was talking about how we, I think that APR3, we was talking about how we're using zeros to find, factors to find zeros and, trace a graph and all this stuff. Okay, so these right here, if I am looking at this graph, let's just say that this thing is, I don't know, doing something like that. The vertex is somewhere down here. Here's the axis of symmetry. Right here are my two roots, right? We find roots where it crosses the x-axis. Now, what do we know about every point that lies on the x-axis? What do we know about the coordinates? We know that the y value is always 0. So a lot of times, you're about to see me shift from just writing an expression like this, and you're going to see me start writing it like this. You're going to see that. Because now that's an equation, because I have the equal sign and a y, right? So when I'm trying to figure out the roots, or the zeros, the solutions, whatever, when I'm trying to figure them out for this thing, what I'm doing is I'm saying, all right, I'm going to let zero replace the y. So you're going to see that come into light. All this means is that each one of these, see, I've already factored this thing out, right? I got it factored out right up here. I'm going to take each one of these factors and I'm going to set it equal to 0. So it's going to look something like this. X minus 9 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. So I want to solve both of these separately. So that's going to be x equals 9. This is going to be x minus 2, x equals negative 2. These are my roots of this function. Now to prove that, I'm not just going to just say, hey, good luck, just trust me on that. I'm going to prove it to you. So I'm going to go up here. Hey, you can see me on YouTube. Look at there. I'm going to go over here to my Desmos calculator, and I want you to see what happens. If it'll ever load. Y equals x squared minus 7x minus 18. Okay, so there's the function. Close that off. So right here, negative 0, 9, 0. So right here, the x coordinate. See how both times y value is 0? Well, that's because that I made it 0 in my equation. Negative 2 and 9. That's what we're trying to find. Now, just for the sake of it, let me zoom out here. I'm going to show you the vertex. I'm going to try to anyway. Alright, so I got 3.5 and a negative 30.25. So, go back here to my papers here. So going back to my vertex, that's 3.5. And negative 121 over 4, that's like saying 121 divided by 4, that's going to be 3. This is 12, that's 0. Bring 1, that's 0, right? 30, 0. Okay, so you see where I don't need to finish this out. Y'all get the idea. 30, negative 30.25. Again, calculator will do that for you. So that's what that's saying. That's where that's coming from. So coming back to me again. So I hope that helps out a little. Trying to give a little bit of clarity to some of the stuff we've been talking about. And when you're studying, yeah, I think that's about it. So, hope this video helps, and I hope that, hey, if you got any questions, make sure you bring them to class tomorrow and Friday. Yeah, Friday we'll be having a quiz on stuff, so I want to make sure you got all the materials that you can to help you be successful. One last thing, then I'll shut up. On Google Classroom, I have some CUDA software sheets that have some practice with this factoring that you can look at, and it also has the answer key so that you can check yourself. So make sure that you look at that and you practice a few of them. If you only have to do 1 or 2 and you feel good, great. I'll give you some advice. Do start at the end of the sheet and kind of work your way back up. Those are usually the hard ones. So if you got the harder ones mastered and you're doing fine, then probably the other ones not really necessary that you go through them, right? But I leave that up to you. So, happy studying. Y'all have a good day.